Amen. Amen. Honoring Pastor Carrie and Reverend Eddie and both of their wives and everybody on the line. Honoring God, all ministers, saints, and friends. I say good afternoon. Today, I will be preaching from the word that God gave me, and it's called Moses's Mama. Moses's Mama. And the rest of it is called Payment After Trauma. How many of you have a mama or had a mama? You're here because of your mama, and of course your dad too. But on today, we're going to talk about Moses's mama and payment after trauma. Thank you for the reading of the word earlier. I'm going to read it again. Sometimes it helps when we hear things 2 or 3 times. My verses that I'll use that will be my focus will be Exodus 2, verses 2 through 3. And it reads, "She conceived and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and set it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile." So those are my focus verses. But I'm going to read the whole story to you because, things that we love in life and things that we remember, things that speak to our hearts are a beautiful song and a beautiful story. So let me tell you this beautiful story from Exodus 2, 1 through 10. And it reads as thus. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it up and saw the baby. He was crying. She felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman, which is his real mama, Moses' mama, so the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." So I came before you on today to tell you about Moses's mama and payment after trauma. Jochebed, or some people may say Jochebed, was a courageous mother of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, known for defying Pharaoh by hiding her infant son to save him from death. She is recognized for her faith in God, utilizing a tar-sealed basket in the Nile to protect her son, Moses, who was later adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. Now, Moses' mother in the Bible was Jochebed or Jochebed, however you like to pronounce it, a Levi woman who risked her life to save him from Pharaoh's decree to kill Hebrew male babies. She hid him for 3 months, then placed him in the basket in the Nile River, where he was discovered by Pharaoh's daughter and ultimately raised by Jochebed herself. So, key facts: family. She was the daughter of Levi and the wife of Amram, who was also from the tribe of Levi. Children. She was the mother of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. So her courageous act that she displayed was she was led to hide her baby. She hid him for 3 months, resulting in her being paid by the king to nurse her own son. Now you might say, who gets paid to nurse their own baby? I know I didn't get paid to nurse my son Adonai, but Jochebed, she gets paid to nurse her own son. So after she was traumatized with the idea of killing her son, the Lord spoke to her and said, you don't have to kill him. Don't kill him. Don't kill him because I want to use him. I want to use him for my glory. I want to use him. So she was obedient to the Lord. She was obedient to her master. She was obedient because she loved her son. Can you imagine her carrying her baby for 9 months with the knowledge that I need to kill him? Pharaoh said, I need to kill him. Pharaoh said that I need to put him in the river, the Nile River. He said, put all the babies in the river. That's what, all the male babies in the river. But she said, Lord, I don't really want to do that. And you know, because you live in me and you gave him to me on purpose. You gave him to me to glorify you. You gave him to me so that he could help his people. You gave him to me so that we could see how you want to use him. We could see your glory in his life. So we all know Jochebed, she had a meaning to her name. I guess you want to know what was the meaning of her name. It's really important that you know what you name your babies and what their name means, because in the name you find purpose. In the name you find power. In the name you find hope. In the name you find direction. So I ask you on today, do you know what your name means? Well, my son's name is Adonai, and it means Lord, Master. And his middle name is Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And so I said, God, I'm trusting you with him. Some of you may not know this, but I was a single parent, and I raised my son as a single parent in the first 6 years of his life. Now, his biological father said, kill him. And I said, no, I'm not. He said, kill him. I said, I can't. He said, kill him. I don't plan on being a part of either of your lives. But God said, Linda, he has a purpose. Linda, he has a meaning. Linda, he's here. Linda, he will help save you. Linda, you'll find purpose in his being. Linda, you will be able to glorify me through him. So there are some days in life when one time I had lost my keys and I couldn't find them. And I said Adonai, and then I said Emmanuel. And guess what? In the dark, I was searching for my keys. I couldn't get to work. I couldn't get to church. I couldn't get anywhere without my keys, right? So I just called on my son's name. And I called his name. I said, Adonai Emmanuel. Emmanuel, God is with us. And I surrendered to the Lord. And guess what? In the dark, I found my keys. I got him to daycare. I got him to school. And then I got to work because I trusted God and I didn't kill my son. So, Jochebed, she does the same. Meaning of her name, it means Jehovah is glory. Jehovah is glory. I'm not glory, but Jehovah is glory. Her role, she played a crucial role in shaping Moses' identity as a Hebrew, despite him growing up in the Egyptian royal household. She raised her son, and when he got to a great age, she gave him away. She gave him to Pharaoh's daughter. Now, you might say, Dr. Linda Cummings, Dr. Linda, where are you going from here? Well, let me tell you. Jochebed, she did a few things in life. So she decided that she was going to be obedient no matter what. She said, God, I'm going to do it your way. So she did it his way. And she also allowed God to get the glory. So for his glory, his way, for his glory. And then she was able to tell his story. So Jochebed coated Moses' papyrus basket with tar and pitch to waterproof it, ensuring the basket would float and remain dry, protecting her baby from drowning in the Nile. This sealant, similar to that used on boats, allowed the vessel to keep the infant safe while floating among the reeds, acting as a small ark of protection. Yes, this is the same thing that was used on Noah's ark that allowed it to float. She used the same materials to allow her son to be put in the river, in the basket, in the river, and he did float. He didn't drown. So she had an ark in and of herself. She was able to do this because she did it his way. Pharaoh said, throw your kids in the Nile. She said, Pharaoh, I'm going to obey you, but I'm going to obey God. And I'm going to do it his way for his glory. And I'm going to tell his story. All right. So when she waterproofed it with the tar and pitch, which ensured that the Nile water would not seep into the basket and sink it, allowing it to float on the river. So I ask you today, what have you waterproofed your life with? Tar and pitch, where it ensues that in the Nile water would not seep into the basket and sink it, allowing it to float on the river. So, what do you cover yourself with? And what do you not allow to get into your basket, to get into your boat? What do you protect yourself from? Maybe it's from negativity. Maybe it's from hopelessness. Maybe it's from the idea of drowning and not surviving. Maybe it's the thing that God has put inside of you, which is hope, his glory. So how are you protecting your vessel? Because sometimes we've allowed things to seep into our lives. Sometimes we allow depression to seep into our baskets. Sometimes we allow negativity to seep into our basket. Sometimes we allow hopelessness to seep into our baskets. Sometimes we allow fear to seep into our baskets. Sometimes we allow human beings to make decisions for us. But I say, what are you protecting yourself from? And have you coated your basket with tar and pitch? Sometimes things happen that we have no control over, whether it's a loss of a job, whether it's a loss of finances, whether it's a loss of family, whether it's a loss of anything in life that you can imagine. But we have so many losses in life. So I ask, what are you covering your vessel with? Because you are a vessel. He said that you are his vessel, and we are broken. Yes, we are broken vessels in which God has put us back together again. So some of us have cracks. Some of us have to put sealing on those cracks. And sometimes some of those cracks, even though with glue or tar or whatever, still sometimes we can see through the cracks. So I say, are you being transparent in your life? Are you being transparent with those that you love? Have you told your story? Have you told your story, or have you chosen to be transparent, or have you chosen not to tell the full story? Maybe you say the full story hurts too bad. Maybe you say the full story would show how I didn't walk in faith. Maybe you say the full story would show that I didn't fully trust in God, even though I sing, I trust in God wherever I may be. So, what's your full story? Sometimes when we don't tell the full story, we can't allow God to use us for his glory. We may choose to do things that are not according to his will. We may choose to walk in accordance to our way, not his way. But on today, we're talking about a woman who chose obedience and chose to do it his way for his glory and to share his story. So, this protection, you might say, protection for survival by placing him in a waterproof vessel. She was obeying the Pharaoh's command to put her son in the Nile while doing all she could to ensure his safety from drowning. Most of us on the line have kids. And if you don't have kids, you have nieces and nephews, and you have great nieces and great nephews. You got somebody who you can adopt, somebody who you can influence their life with. Well, those that we love and those that God is using us in order to bless their lives, we must protect them. Protect them so that they can survive. How do you protect your family? How do you protect those that you love? How do you protect your parents? Now, some of you might say, well, I protect them, but sometimes we go a little bit overboard. And going a little bit overboard just means that sometimes we try to be God. And we try to be God to ourselves. We try to be God to our family. We try to be God to our nieces and nephews. We try to be God on our jobs. We try to be God in our communities. We try to be God. And when we try to be God, then I can tell you that I'm a witness that I fail every time. I tell my patients when they come into the hospitals and they tell me their life stories, and then they get to the point when they tell me how they try to control things, how they try to take care of everything, how they try to be God in their lives to themselves and to other people. But in every circumstance, we fail. So I just decided that I wasn't going to try to be God because I can't even help myself. I can't even control myself. I can't even do what God wants me to do at times. So I'm a poor God on 99% of the days that I try to be God. So I told my sister last week, she talked about protecting my son. And she made a decision that I wouldn't have made, but my son was with her. And my whole family was with her. My great nieces and everybody, they were with her. So she made a decision that I wouldn't have made. And she made the decision because she wanted to protect my son. And she wanted to protect the family. And she wanted to protect the car. And she wanted to protect everything. But what I found that when I try to protect everything, that I go wrong. There's only one protector, and that's God. And when I choose to allow God to protect me and to protect my son and to protect my family, then I find that I win. That I win every time. My son is 21. And how many of you know that at age 21, you should be able to make some decisions on your own, right? At age 21, he has his own car, which I don't pay for it. He does. At age 21, we have insurance. And so he's had a couple of accidents. His fault, couple of accidents, which raised the insurance from being 400 to 537 to now 732. So guess what? I don't pay the insurance. He does, right? So he pays the insurance. He pays the insurance on my car and his car because now is the time that you learn some things in life. So in this situation, he told my sister, he said, well, I pay the insurance, Auntie. I pay for my own car. I pay. She was like, well, no, you can't have a car. So then he called me. He said, Mama, I don't think I was wrong. Do you think I was wrong? I tried to be respectful. So then I called my sister. And I told her, I said, Pat, he can use the car. Let him drive. All he wants to do is go get something to eat and then go take care of his other cousin, who they're like sisters and brothers. So finally, she let him use the car, and he got to his cousin right on time in which she needed him. She needed him to pick her up because she had made some decisions that weren't of God, but she needed his help. And he got to her house right in time to pick her up, carry her into the house. So sometimes we try to protect things that God should be the one who's protecting things. So now let's talk about the biblical significance. Moses' mama, her act parallels the story of Noah's Ark, which I told you a little bit ago, where the pitch was used to preserve life from the water, symbolizing God's protection and setting up Moses as a leader who would deliver his people. The basket was likely a basket case designed to be sturdy enough to be found, not just thrown into the river, allowing for a desperate, faithful attempt to save him. Moses' mama, after she had birthed him and after she had hid him, and after when she decided that she needed to protect him, she got the papyrus basket and she coated it with tar and pitch. And then she did what? She gave him up. She said, God, I trust you. So I'm going to put them in the water like Pharaoh told me to do. But I'm going to put them in the water your way. I'm going to obey you and obey Pharaoh, but I'm going to do it your way, God. So we have to do it his way and for his glory. We must tell his story. So she did what was necessary. She put them in the river. She put them in the Nile River. She put them in the Nile River. And she told his sister, which is her daughter, she told his sister, she said, you watch him. I have no control over him now. It's God. But I just want you to watch him. See where he goes. So she watched him. And as Pharaoh's daughter was bathing in the Nile River, she saw this basket in the reeds. She saw it. Doesn't say she heard it yet, but she saw it. And she sent one of her slaves to get it, find out what it was. And when they brought it to her, she opened it up, and it was a baby in there crying. So Pharaoh's daughter, when she found the baby crying, Miriam was close by. So Pharaoh's daughter, she said, oh, this is a Hebrew baby. And about that time, then Moses' sister went to Pharaoh's daughter and said, would you like for me to go and get one of the Hebrew slaves so that they could take care of him, so that they can nurse him? They call it wet feeding him. And Pharaoh's daughter, who knew what her daddy said, she knew her daddy said, kill all the Hebrew children, the male children, throw them in the river. But she had a little mercy. How many of you know that God was in this story? She knew what her daddy said, the Pharaoh. She knew what he said to kill him. But she saw that he was beautiful, and she decided to save him. So she said, yes, told Miriam, yes, go get one of the Hebrew women. So Miriam goes. She doesn't get any Hebrew woman. She goes and gets her mother. How about that? She goes and gets Moses' mother. She comes and she says, I'm here. She honors Pharaoh's daughter, and Pharaoh's daughter says, you take him, you feed him, you grow him, you nurture him, you do all of that. And when you're done doing all of that, I want you to bring him back to me. But before you bring him back to me, I want you to know that I will pay you. I'll pay you for nursing. She didn't know he was her son, but I'll pay you for nursing your son. So after this traumatic event in life where she had to, in essence, give her son to the river, the Nile River, she gave him up. What are you holding that you haven't given up to the Lord? What are you holding on to that you haven't completely surrendered to the Lord? Because Moses' mama, she gave him up. Sometimes we think that we are in control, and we're not. We might as well give it up. So she got paid for nursing her own son. That's why I called this sermon Payment After Trauma. You've had some trauma in your life. I've had trauma in my life. But yet and still, God decided to pay us for the trauma. If you can go through the trauma, if you can give it up to the Lord, whether it's your son, whether it's your job, whether it's your husband, whether it's your wife, whether it's your pastor, whether it's your children, whatever it is, whether it's your finances, if you can give it up to the Lord, then God is God enough. We might say man enough to handle it. So, according to Exodus 1 and 2, Pharaoh ordered his people to throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River. God said, throw it away. What are you keeping? Throw it away. Every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River while allowing the girls to live. This genocidal decree aimed to curb the rapidly growing Israelite population. They wanted the women to marry the Egyptians, okay? Which Pharaoh viewed as a security threat. Moses was a security threat. All the men that were Hebrew were a security threat. On this earth, Black men have been a security threat. We know that we are a security threat. If you're a woman and you're intelligent and God has given you wisdom and you studied his word and you've gone to school and done what's necessary, then you are a security threat. Black men and women are a security threat to Donald Trump. How about that? You are a security threat. So I say, are you fulfilling what God had designed for you to do and be a security threat? Yes. The Pharaoh viewed everybody as a security threat, the Hebrews. The command, which followed the failure of Hebrew midwives to kill their babies, the Hebrew midwives said, we're not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, Donald Trump. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So, which followed the failure of the Hebrew midwives to kill their babies, prompted the hiding and eventual abandonment of baby Moses in a basket. The decree, every son that is born to the Hebrews, you shall cast into the Nile, but you yourself let every daughter live. Context, the Hebrews had grown numerous and strong. Are you a strong woman of God? Are you a strong man of God? In him, strong, leading the new Pharaoh to fear they would ally with the enemies if war broke out. So they were afraid. So the failed attempts before the general decree, Pharaoh ordered Hebrew midwives to kill the boys during the childbirth, but they disobeyed out of fear of God. The result, the decree was designed to eliminate the future generation of Israelite men, weakening their society. Significant. The environment led to Moses' mother placing him in a basket in the Nile where he was found and adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. Genocide. The goal was to systematically destroy the Hebrew people by targeting their ability to multiply and forcing surviving women to intermarry with Egyptians. Astrology. According to the sages, pharaohs, astrologers predicted a Hebrew savior would be born and that his fate would be linked to the water. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm going to wrap it up with a little bit about Moses. Who was Moses? This baby thrown into the Nile in this basket that was covered with tar and pitch, and his mother gave him up. Who was Moses? Moses was the foundational prophet, leader, and lawgiver in the Old Testament who delivered the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Chosen by God at the burning bush, he led the Exodus, parted the Red Sea. If there was no Moses, who's going to part the Red Sea? He received the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai and guided the Israelites for 40 years in the wilderness. Who was going to guide the Israelites for 40 years in the wilderness if there was no Moses? So born a Hebrew, Moses was saved from death, his death sentence by his mother, and raised by Pharaoh's daughter in the royal court after killing an Egyptian taskmaster to protect. Again, there's protection. He was protecting a Hebrew slave. He fled to Midian, where he lived as a shepherd. God called him to return to Egypt, and he eventually guided the people toward Canaan, though he died on Mount Nebo before entering it. I tell the story that I'm the youngest of eight, really nine, because my mother had nine kids. All right. She had nine kids. The first one was born and he lived 6 months. They moved from Mississippi to Kansas City, and in the process of relocating, and right before relocation they had come to visit, and he got ill and they went to the hospital. And back then, in those days, they didn't keep us in the hospital no matter what was going on. He had a temperature, but they sent my mother and my brother home, my dad too. They sent him home, and it was Christmas Day, and on Christmas Day he died because his temperature was too high. It was like 102, 103, and then it kept going. But they sent her home. So that was my first brother. But it's 8 of us that survived. I tell people that I'm number 8, but my sister Diane, she's number 7. Now, the first 6 are year after year. And then there's some years, about 3 years between my brother, the youngest brother, and my sister, 3 years. And then it's 5 years between me and my sister. So, how many of you know that I was a surprise baby? I wasn't supposed to be here. Wasn't supposed to be here. But look at my family. I'm the preacher in the family, and I wasn't supposed to be here. So I thank my mom and my daddy all the time that they kept me. They didn't get rid of me because God is using me for his glory, his way. I'm telling his story. And so we see the life of Moses. And if there had never been a Moses, where would we be? We know Jesus came from all of that lineage. Where would we be if there was no Moses? So I say unto you today, have you given it up? What are you holding back from God? So that's between you and him. And I just thank Pastor Carrie and Reverend Eddie for giving me this opportunity to share about payment after trauma. Moses' mama, God will pay you after your trauma. You will have to go through the tears and the trials and the struggles and being talked about and everybody not liking you. People don't like me. I walk into a room, they don't even like the sight of me. Some folks, they surely don't like the sound of me. Some folks, but I'm here. And I'm not going to stop being Linda because somebody is offended. I'm not going to stop doing what God has called me to do because somebody doesn't like that I'm a woman. I'm not going to stop being who God created me to be because I know that God has a purpose and a plan for each and everybody that's on the call. Amen.